There is a little bit of a division among the left in America, and that division has to do with the right process to reform our government. On one hand, you have individuals who believe that you can really reform the Democratic Party from within in order to create a party that's much more representative of the working class. And then on the other hand, you have individuals who think that the establishment really needs a shakeup. You need to either create a third party or just blow up the entire system and start from scratch. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. What is the most, in your mind, I guess, what is the best way to move forward? Because I certainly fall under this category of leftists who feel as though we don't really have a party that represents our best interests, especially when you consider the corruption that takes place, the legalized bribery that takes place in this country. A lot of the Democratic donors have the same interests that Republicans do. And so the same people are funding Democrats and Republicans, and they're essentially pushing for very similar things in domestic policy, especially when it comes to the financial sector. So what is the best way to move forward to kind of change this system? Do you kind of start from scratch, or can you really reform it from within?
Well, you can't start with scratch. That's just not an option. That's suicide. You have to deal with the world as it exists, not as you'd like it to exist. I think the two alternatives that you sketch should be regarded as complementary, not competing. We have a short-term problem. What lever do you push on in November of this year? Simple question. What you do is pick the one that's least damaging. Okay, after having spent 5 minutes figuring that out, you now go back to work trying to develop the basis for much more substantial changes, to develop popular movements which will be active, engaged on real issues, never stopping, not restricting themselves to the quadrennial extravaganza, but working all the time on the ground, communities, education, organizing, activism to create the larger scale changes that are needed. But these are not alternatives. We shouldn't be trapped by the doctrinal system which identifies politics as showing up every couple of years to push a button to select one or another candidate picked by the powerful. Yes, that choice makes a difference, makes a significant difference for reasons I mentioned. But once you've made that choice, which would take you a couple of minutes to figure out, you go back to the major work. In fact, no secret that the mainstream establishment, the Democratic establishment, the media, are very concerned that Bernie Sanders might gain the nomination. They're doing everything possible to undermine it. Why? I don't think it's because of his policies. The fact of the matter is his policies are an expansion of the New Deal. I don't think they would have surprised Dwight Eisenhower very much, the last conservative president. But what really is bothersome is that he's breaking with the condition that the public are supposed to be occasional participants whose role in the political system is to pick one or another of the dominant class. He's breaking with that. He organized a mass popular movement, inspired it. It's now doing lots of things. If you look back at what's called liberal democratic theory, no time to go into it, but if you look back at it essentially asserts that the role of the public is to be spectators, not participants. And participation is limited to the responsible men, the serious guys. The public just chooses among them every once in a while, then goes back to its own business. Well, Sanders here, Corbyn in England are breaking with that. And that's a real threat to the establishment system. So naturally, they're bitterly opposed. But that's the right thing. And that's not an alternative to voting against Trump in the next election. That's something that must be done if we hope at least to leave some breathing space to achieve the other goals. So yes, you do that, but it's not the center of your...
On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.